Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's okay. Hope everyone's well. Wow, my lights are bright tonight. Can't be bothered to turn them down. Apologies for that. Hope everyone can hear me. Hope everyone is good. And any guesses for what we're going to talk about tonight? I think this one's probably fairly obvious. Donald Trump's inauguration occurred yesterday. He is now the 47th president of the United States, and as far as we were all concerned, going to be the Lord and Savior for the crypto space. But I don't know. I'm going to ask the question: will Donald Trump be a hero or a villain? The polls out there. Do you think he's a force for good? Do you think he's a force for bad? Please, let's have a look. Let's have a discussion about it. Why do I say that? Because some interesting things have actually happened over the last 48, 72 hours. And the biggest one for me has to be the launch of the Trump official meme and the family of Trump memes that have come across from that. And I want to talk about those. I want to talk about, what that potentially means, why they've potentially been set up, how that's going to affect us as not just as an industry, but if we're looking to invest in something like that. And where I personally sit with those, had it not be for someone like Trump. So we're going to talk about that. We're obviously going to cover a lot of the stuff about the inauguration, about Trump's first 24 hours in office, or back in office, and how that's kind of affected the market. We're going to have a look at TA a little bit later on. But I need to ask for your assistance, because anytime during this call, Trump might utter the first Bitcoin words as a US president. And if he does, just about everything I'm going to talk about will likely change. So if anyone sees that that's happened, or I'll probably see it in the price, to be fair, please let me know. And we may need to adjust that. Not really too sure how this is going to be structured. I'm just going to sort of go through it all. It looks, when you see in the charts, there's a lot of news tabs open. I'm not going through the news articles. I'm just using those to illustrate some of the points. If, of course, you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll run through those as best as we can as we go through. But failing everything else, let us just dive straight in. Standard charts that we see at the moment. And Bitcoin's kind of coiling up, which it has been doing since the end of the Trump pump back at sort of middle of November. We're at that upper level at the moment. Yesterday, we did hit a brand new all-time high of 109,700 or something like that. So pretty close to $110,000, give or take. And we're still at that upper echelon. Now, this is on the 3-day time frame in a moment, but let's just knock this down and let's have a look here. What we're really waiting to see, and today's candle may be the candle, we want to see the daily close actually above 106,200. which is what the height of this daily close was here. When I actually get it right, I have to line it up there, but you can kind of see the figure in that corner. So that's what I'm wanting to see. We close above that, I think we're going to have some room to climb on further north. We start to lose that, and we're going to have to question whether or not within this bullish rectangle that we are forming, that perhaps we've reached the upper top of that, and maybe there's a bit of a retracement to have. But that being said, sorry, I'm still on the 3-day here. Let me just put it onto the daily. That being said, we have hit this upper level before. We've come back down, and even today we dropped as low as, believe it or not, $100,000, which, actually weirdly enough, seems to cause the market a little bit of stress. For those, we're going to go in a moment, but spoiler alert. For those of you who are on crypto Twitter, you were active in Discord, what have you, yesterday was a really funny day because Donald didn't seem to mention Bitcoin in any of his speeches. I felt that there was a real negative kind of feeling in and around the crypto space. There was some concerns about it all. People on crypto Twitter talking about cycle tops being in, selling their cryptos and everything else. And it really did feel like, wait a second, we've got arguably the most pro-crypto president that's just come into the United States. And yet everyone seems to be doom scaring themselves. Today, until about 2 hours ago, again, a lot of altcoins were bleeding out. And so, I think the last 2 hours have probably changed the tone of what I was going to talk about. But some of our favorites like BitTensor, was really struggling. Price action still not great on BitTensor. We'll have a look in a moment. But yeah, that being said, for me, even on this, and we'll break it down later, we've had this. Sorry, I thought I had a trend line out there. Let's get rid of this one. That was from ages ago. Now we've had sort of this kind of bomb in here, not quite got down there. I would actually argue maybe lifting it up to here. Okay, wicks below it, but this kind of pattern around about 92,000, been a very stable bottom for the last 2 months at the moment. But as I mentioned, there has been, you know, again, difficult because we've only recently just touched it, but there are definite touch points over the last week or so in and around that 106, 107,000 region. And we are poking our heads ever so slightly above it. I think we've got to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room there. But if this doesn't break right now, you know, we are at the top of a bullish rectangle. And this is something that we have seen before. Okay, granted, it was a falling channel, but we spent 9 months in a consolidation period here. So don't get it twisted. We could do exactly the same in and around where we're at right now. But as I said, all it takes is for Donald to mention crypto, Bitcoin, freeing Ross Ulbricht, all of those kind of things. I think they're going to really help the market. I feel the market right now is super emotional, and fundamental news-related things are more than likely going to drive the market far better than TA actually is. That being said, we can still look at some TA. We'll drop it away. I do want to focus on Bitcoin dominance a little bit here. This was what I made last week with that W formation. We had this as a neckline and we moved this. We couldn't decide where we wanted to place it. Last week it worked here. Where it sits right now is actually the more ideal place for this neckline, waistline. You know, is that W formation about to kick off? Now, it's looking very healthy, but we are riding up against that waistline at the moment. Donald mentions Bitcoin strategic reserve, and I think we're going to see a God candle, not just on Bitcoin, but actually on the Bitcoin dominance. That is going to move first. And so we could well be in the throes of this strong move up. I don't think, I mean, we mentioned this last week again with the M that's there. We had originally this is total 3, so the altcoin market falling through. But in fairness, we've bucked the trend here. That's horrible. Sorry, let me get rid of this. We've bucked the trend here, and we're starting to be sort of pulling up. And I would say that things like Trump coin have helped this along. What we actually saw with the launch of Trump coin is it wasn't really new money that was coming in. It stripped out a lot of money from other cryptocurrencies into the market, including Ethereum, maybe even a bit of Bitcoin, maybe not. But Trump coin massively moved over the space of the weekend. And so we've seen that whipsaw, I can't even speak. Whipsaw, thank you. Price action over the last sort of like 5 or 6 days with the total free market cap. But it doesn't really seem to be that M formation. If anything, you could argue now that we are finding some sort of support here, maybe a move up and a W formation. So still reason to be optimistic that there's an alt season among us. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see on that one. And then BitTensor, I mean, she's looking pretty sad, unfortunately. Yes, okay, today it's up 2.5%. A little bit earlier on, it was up about 5%. But we have, we were battling. I mean, the 460 line, this white line goes all the way back from its inception. We lost that. We regained it in the time it's been since the last call. We've lost it again yesterday. We've gone all the way down to about 370 actually, but we have found some resurgence today. We'll talk about it a little bit more later on. I'm wondering whether or not, as I mentioned, there was a potential head and shoulders here, and maybe today's price action is more of a Kobo from that. We really need to see how that's looking out, but looking pretty sad. I mean, over the last 90 days, it's just, it's not lower high after lower high, because obviously we've had this middle peak head, whatever you want to call it, but certainly since December, we just can't seem to catch a break right now. So we'll have a look at how that looks a little bit later on. And even I mean, we were chatting on Discord yesterday and chatting with some people last night outside of it. I was just wondering whether or not Tau is the play for right now. That was my honest opinion. There seems to be other tokens, other asset classes that are moving far better. And despite any fundamental beliefs about where I think this project can go, is it really maximizing my portfolio? The answer is obviously no. Most things are doing far better than BitTensor has been over the last 3 months. But my worry is that at any time that I decide I want to sidestep, something could happen. And that could lead price to skyrocket. So sitting on my hands just seems like the right thing to do right now. We'll have a look at some levels to watch a little bit later on. Sorry, Stuart, you've put, I expect something like the first meme, but other members of the family launching them is not great for serious crypto projects. I think it will get quickly bored with liquidity grabs. Yep, I'm going to talk about this in a second, so if I just skip it for now, just bear with me. And Crypto Wonders put, this week has really shaken my resolve for the overall crypto plan and Simon's heavy towel pot. I keep telling myself the longer it stretches, the better for our hopes of a full bull year, but I'm tired. I think that's it. I'm battle weary as well, trading altcoins. And I'll be honest with you, if it isn't for the one rare hope really is just that sort of Bitcoin stance that I've taken for years now has at least proven, and yes, some other projects have actually outperformed my Bitcoin, but this feels like a big slog this time. You know, that old picture of how people view trading crypto straight line, how it really is, all the dips and crevices. It really feels like we've taken all of those in the last 12 months. And you know, is this time different? That's something we've discussed in the past. And yeah, we'll have a look at that a little bit later on. But let's just dive into a couple of news things. I'll try and be as quick as I can with these. I'll try not to bore you too much. But they are pretty much all, they're not totally, but they're pretty much all related to Trump's presidency. And this isn't necessarily is he good or is he evil, but ultimately, Donald Trump, you know, he, during his campaign and certainly after his election, there were some promises in inverted commas that were made, certainly discussed, which got the crypto community very excited. So when he won, there were a few things that people were expecting to happen. Whether or not that's realistic, that they were expecting them to happen on day one, we'll leave to other people. I might share some views on that a little bit more. But these are the 8 ones that were mentioned quite regularly. So he's been pardoning people from January 6th and some other situations, and everybody thought that Ross Ulbricht, who is the founder of Silk Road, is currently serving 2 life sentences back to back because of creating that, would be getting a pardon. And this was going to be a huge step forward in Donald Trump sort of seeing the value within cryptocurrency, seeing the unfair justice that he got. I'm not really too au fait with the case, but you know, regardless, 2 life sentences back to back for setting up a website, it's not great. And so setting him free was just going to be a real step forward to, this is one of the founding steps for cryptocurrency legitimacy over the next 4 years. So we've not seen that yet. My personal view is, day one in the office, he's going to take care of the January 6th situation. That is what the vast majority of the people who voted for him would care about. The vast majority of the people who did vote for him probably never even heard of Ross Ulbricht. So I don't think it's too much of a slight to Ross that he didn't get pardoned on day one. But yeah, we'll see where that one goes. Firing Gary Gensler, he didn't get the opportunity to because Gary Gensler resigned yesterday. So we need a new chair for the SEC. See what happens there. Bitcoin National Reserve, everyone, he promised that he would create a strategic national reserve. I don't believe he ever said he would do it day one, although a lot of people seem to suggest that he had. Alan just put, he pardoned 1,500 January 6th as exactly. And I think that's where his focus rightly probably should have been, to just appease the vast majority of his voters. And so we may see other pardons coming in weeks and months. But going back to the Bitcoin National Reserve, this is the one that I think frustrated most people in the crypto space. They were really hoping that when he started talking about turning the economy around and how he was going to help do that, I think a lot of people were hoping that he was going to mention Bitcoin and a strategic reserve. That isn't necessarily the case. Doesn't mean that it won't happen. There's an argument that could be made that what he really needs to do is get the right people in the SEC, get the right people in the CFTC, really understand through regulation exactly what the United States can do with Bitcoin as a strategic reserve before he makes any announcements, so he doesn't end up with egg on his face. Sadly, that could take some time. So we'll just have to wait and see where that one goes. Lowering interest rates, he has talked about the fact interest rates are too high. He has talked about tackling inflation. No concrete plans in how he's going to do that, but he has addressed that, and he did yesterday. Killing Operation Choke Point 2.0. So this is the restrictions with banks. I didn't hear anything in his inauguration speech about that. I've not seen any executive orders about that one. But as I said in this article here, looking to get that done within 100 days. So again, not something that he pledged to do day one. Protecting self-custody, definitely there was nothing mentioned about self-custody because he didn't talk about crypto. So nothing there about private keys. And also he wanted to bring, any Bitcoin that was mined in the US should stay in the US. Whether or not he really understood when he was on that conference how Bitcoin really works and how mining Bitcoin doesn't matter, but that was something that he said. Again, we didn't talk about crypto yesterday. And that, I think, really upset the market. That's what, for me, drove a bit of the fear. But what I would say is price action did all right. Yes, it dropped down yesterday to the lows of 100,000, but it bounced back up. And I think we were always going to see some volatility, particularly with the actual traditional markets closed. But the fact that Trump's first day in office, no mention of cryptocurrency, I think really spooked a lot of people. There was a lot of hope around that. I do think it was kind of falsely generated, but that, as I mentioned at the beginning, is just where the market is right now. We are an incredibly emotional market. We always have been a market. I mean, the fact that we rely so much on the fear and greed index just shows you how emotional this market is. But that comes with the territory of the volatility that comes with it. So what I will say is, he did mention it day one, the markets did okay. We start to get to the end of week one, week two, and he's not really talking about cryptocurrency as a president, then I think we may be in for a bit of a shock. Because I think that is going to spook a lot of people into really questioning whether or not Donald Trump just said that to get voters, or whether he just doesn't actually really care about it. So the longer that stays not being spoken about, I think the worse that's going to be for the market. However, and we've got to assume that if he does speak about it, he's going to speak about it positively. That is an assumption I'm just making straight off the bat. I can't believe he's going to stand up now and go, crypto is bad, Bitcoin is bad, don't do it. I just don't see that happening. So if and or when he does mention cryptocurrency, and specifically Bitcoin, I expect a God candle. And I mean a God candle because of the emotion that's there. I'm talking 10%, take this thing to 120,000 because he's finally said it. How long it'll last up there, I don't know, but I think there's going to be such a relief that he's talked about it, particularly if he talks about it in a positive way. He starts talking about, yes, we're going forward with strategic Bitcoin reserve. I think that's going to be a frenzy. I think Bitcoin will lead. Some alts will follow, and we'll talk about how altcoins are doing a little bit later on. However, maybe one of the reasons he hasn't is because, as I said, he needs to understand how we can take cryptocurrency regulation in the United States forward. And so the SEC has already launched a new task force that is already in place right now to try and drive this through as quickly as possible. This was released an article only a few hours ago, just talking about the fact that they are actually already putting a task force together to try and understand comprehensively what regulations are going to look like and a framework for crypto assets. No real timescale on how that is going to be done, but as I say, maybe he is just waiting so he can understand what he can clearly promise and what he can't promise going forward. But these things are stepping stones, aren't they? And then we get to the crux of what I'm talking about. Because before he was president, 2 days before his inauguration, Donald Trump, the billionaire, decided to launch his own meme coin. And this is where I have a problem. And I'm going to go through it. Because why? Why launch a meme coin? You're about to become the president of the United States. You're already a billionaire. Why launch the meme coin? You don't need it for money. You don't need it for donations. You don't need it for funding for anything. Or there's certainly no say this. Yes, okay. There's an element to it in which it's a way of just sort of consolidating the victory that you've had in some sort of meme, and I get it. But why don't you just back it rather than actually setting one up in which you have the team? And immediately, I mean, it launched for those in the UK at like 3 a.m. It came as a complete surprise. And we kind of woke up to this thing, Donald Trump coin at $15. 2 days ago, it got to $80. I think it's currently sitting at about $41 at the moment. Let's just check. 43.80 at the moment. And so, obviously there was money to be made from that. But let's just take a step back. If it wasn't Donald Trump that launched this coin, we've talked about so many celebrity-based meme coins or crypto projects on this channel We only recently talked about Hawk Tour Girl, didn't we? God knows what's happened to her since that rugged. But say it wasn't Donald Trump, the future or the current president at the time he launched it, the future president of the United States, the billionaire, etc., that launched it. Say it was just another celebrity of a decent standing, but not Donald Trump. This token was launched with 80% kept by the team from a tokenomics point of view. I think I've got it here. From a tokenomics point of view, this was utterly crazy. 20% of it was issued on release, of which 10 was for the liquidity pools, and then 10% just for public, right? That 80% sounds great. It's locked up for 3 years. It's not locked up for 3 years. But don't get it twisted. I don't know why I keep on saying that, I must have scored it on YouTube. Don't get confused by this. That 80% is his team's, okay? And they call it Creator and CIC Digital, 1, 2, very vague names, but ultimately all owned by himself. And we can have a look at the vesting periods here. So this is the breakdown. There's a billion tokens overall, 360 million for all of these, but that adds up to your 80%. And then you get the vesting periods. And the vesting periods, the unlock actually starts in 3 months. And from that 3 months is then quite aggressively, pretty much every 3 months. Well, there's a new wallet that can dump. And because they have such a lot of this is going to cause an immense amount of selling pressure. If this was, as I said, any other celebrity, we would have had grave concerns about, 3 to 6 months' time, we are going to have close to 40% unlocked. 9 months' time, we're going to have over 50% unlocked. And then there's sort of a steady kind of unlock period. So, yes, okay, there are some vesting periods which take 24 months, but they start from 3 months' time. And, crypto is a greater fool's game. We all know that. It's always hopefully you buy something with someone even more foolish going to buy it off your hands later on. But who are we against here? We're against the president of the free world. He's the guy that's holding the 80% bag. And all the people that have to report to him, to try and legitimize this, the SEC, Coinbase, all these other exchanges, they're going to bend over backwards to try and get this thing listed, to try and legitimize it so they can make money off fees and everything else. And the person they're bending over backwards to, the president of the United States, happens to hold 80% of this token. Now, the funny thing is, and I was watching a video on this, and I completely agree with CoffeeZilla, who was talking about this. I don't actually think this is so this is the chart at the moment. I don't actually think the people that have jumped in on Trump coin, they're not retail. These are experienced crypto people that fully understand what this is, but I think they've seen it for the money grab. So I don't necessarily think that it's going to, it's still going to harm people. Some people have bought this at $80. It's not worth half that. But I don't think this is the target that we may hurt later on. I think, if we talk about cryptocurrency, he talks about cryptocurrency, start to legitimize it, and people start to onboard off the back of that. They finally understand what the Solana network is, etc. Although now it's available on a lot more sexes, it probably don't have to worry about that so much. That's who it's going to ultimately end up hurting. That's who is ultimately going to cause the problem to. Now, if that's not bad enough, 24 hours after that, Melania meme launches. And so this is the narrative, isn't it? Is suddenly it's just meme after meme after meme, official memes. And we know this one was official because Donald Trump retweeted it just to sort of validate that this one was it. Now, this one's even worse because this one has only a 30-day lockup period, and the tokens are out within 13 months or something like that. So what was amusing was, if we go back to the Trump chart, maybe we can overlay. I don't know. Let's just do this one. What's happened there? I don't think it has it all, unfortunately. Okay, well, I'll just hide that for now. Doesn't matter. What was amusing is when Melania coin launched, actually Donald Trump's token dumped, and it dumped very aggressively. This was it here. So this is 24 hours afterwards, Melania token launched, and people saw it as the next money grab. And so they moved swiftly out of Trump token from its all-time high, moved it into Melania, and then that one was, this misses. This is, I mean, it's not as easy to see, I appreciate, but at least this one gives us the whole picture. So we had it starting at $7, flying all the way up to what, I don't know, what's that, 12 and a bit, and then it peaking at around about $14 before now falling away, like most meme coins do, because this one doesn't have the legs. It was just another grab. And we've actually seen, I took a picture of Dex Screener yesterday. Look at this, you know, this is what we were facing. And this is where I worry that we're potentially at, is there's so many now, like Melania, Elon, Trump, Ivanka, Musk, Vance, Eric, Saylor, Junior, all of these Kai, Baron, Eric, President, all of these tokens, all minted within the last 24 hours, all just people just trying to dive in and make some money from that. And what does it feel like? Where's the minimize? This feels like, you know, sort of market top kind of temperature, that sort of fever pitch of just everybody trying to squeeze the very last out of, you know, this I don't know, surge in popularity. Much like, if you remember, the back end of 2021, beginning of 2022, DeFi, rebasing DAOs, they were a dime a dozen. And the fever pitch that came around those, people were blinded by all of that, just diving straight into them wherever they could. And I have to say, and this is why I question whether or not the timing of this makes Donald Trump a hero, superhero, or a supervillain, because are we creating such a fever pitch around cryptocurrency at the moment, certainly around meme coins and what that's doing, that we're ultimately going to be bringing about our early demise as just the market falls away from us. Now, you can argue that with meme coins, we're not over leveraging things. I mean, yes, people obviously potentially overextending themselves if they're doing perp plays, but we're not getting ourselves stuck in that DeFi loop where we're loaning or borrowing stuff using collateral, which then we can't repay back, which then the value of what we used as our collateral drops as well, and suddenly we find ourselves in this whole black hole where the market falls away from us. But every cycle seems to have a point in which it drives itself to that fever pitch. And I'm questioning, I don't truly believe it yet, but we always fall foul for that. Doesn't matter what cycle you've been in. If you've been in a couple, you know we never catch the tops. And I'm wondering whether or not this is exactly what is happening here, that we are driving ourselves to it. I mean, meme coins have been going for 9 or 10 months at the moment, but not quite like this. I mean, at its height, let's just get official Trump or put market cap on. You know, at its height, the circulating supply was 15 billion. So times that by 5, we're talking $80 billion fully diluted market cap. That's bigger than huge companies. $80 billion people were trying to value this thing at, less than 24 hours old. You can't tell me that that's not a feverish kind of run into that. So definitely an element to be concerned about. I am glad that we are seeing it cool off. Not massively. I mean, the Donald Trump token is still worth $44. A meme coin is still worth $44. It's got an $8.8 billion market cap. So it's wild. I mean, I never seen anything like it. Again, reassuring to at least see that the Melania one has cooled off. And I'm not really sure how the others are really tracking there. But we saw USA token, all of that kind of fly up in value before we started to see those drop away. Now, look, I'm not going to own any Trump token, but I have been, I'll short it, I'll long it, I'll try and make a little bit of money from it. We'll talk about perps a little bit later on, as someone's asked a question about that. But I feel like the best way to try and make money from this, instead of being a bag holder that's going to end up with a bag that may end going to zero, probably not the Trump one, but it's certainly not going to do well over the long term, my personal opinion. Or it's going to need a major reset once tokens start getting released. Because you've got to remember, that team that makes up the 80%, they were given that token for free or for very little value. They're probably given advance notice that the token was going to be listed, and they are going to make hand over fist when it's time for them to sell. Doesn't matter what price they sell it. If they got it for nothing or for a cent or for $1 even, still going to make a 40x when they get an opportunity to sell. So don't believe that it won't start falling away or massive swaves of sell orders will come in once unlocks happen. Okay, we have another 2.5 months or so until that happens, but something to be prepared for. However, perp trading it, properly, stop losses, everything else going in on that, there's an opportunity to at least make money off the hype, off the back of the hype, or its inevitable downfall. Let's just have a look at how the poll's doing. I mean, 80% force for good. And if he says what he is, if he delivers on what he said he was going to do, Donald Trump will ultimately be a force for good. I agree with that. This launch of this meme coin, when he launched it, calls into question his legitimacy. It makes him out to be a grifter, in my opinion. Why have such a large bag hold? If you were going to do it, just do it. Just back something that you don't hold anything, or make it so that it's 80% to the public, 10% to you. Still work out how that was going to be mined or minted or released to the market, however you want to do it, fine. But the fact that you were holding that bag, that $80 billion worth, 80% of that is owned by the team. Wild. I mean, it's now 40 billion or 45 billion or whatever. So yeah, sorry, there's a few things that are flowing through, so I'm going to try and catch up on some of those. Tau BTC chart, we'll have a look at that later. Yep. Other nationals launching memes. Yeah, Bijan, I saw you put that in about Cuba. They launched a meme and then rugged. Brazil, I don't know about all of those. Maybe the SEC should consider some regulations aimed at memes. I've got another news article which is even wilder about memes, which is going to involve the SEC. Fartcoin is worth more than Wix. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's interesting with Total 3, the all-time high is at an all-time high, but most 2021 altcoins vary off their all-time high, partly due to meme coins taking liquidity. This is two things, and let's get. I mean, we can do it off the back of this. So you go back to 2021, peak bull market. I know 150, 200, let's just say 300,000 tokens in circulation. At the moment here, you can see this coin on CoinMarketCap, and it's not accurate. It'll be more than this, but it's claiming there is 9.74 million cryptocurrency tokens. Okay, so the supply is just, I don't know what's that, 50x'd? I mean, it was 2.2 million about 12 months ago, but the supply since 2021 is 50x'd. And yet the demand or the money in the market is not there. So it's just spread thinner. And of course, of that 9.74 million, there are going to be boatloads that are worth zero. But of the ones that succeed, that's still a higher percentage, because even in 2021 with 200,000, there were still boatloads that were worth nothing. And so what we're just seeing is it's just spread a lot thinner. We've not got that much money put into the market. And again, even when you add Bitcoin, we're talking about a $3.6 or $3.7 trillion market cap at the moment, surpassing where we were in 2021. And we believe we're not even at the top of the bull market. So we have that competition, and that's something we need to consider with altcoins, about that altcoin cycle. Is there a shift? A shift in how we're looking at that, just because there's more altcoins out there to have to spread it. And so that means picking the right altcoin is important. And maybe now is the time to talk about it. Maybe next week we'll go into it in a bit more detail. But back in the last cycle and the cycle before that, this cycle, we built our alt pots early on. And normally you can go, right, I've selected these seem to be in strong narratives, they're good projects within that, with good tokenomics, good backends, I'm happy. And you just ride it up. And generally you can't miss. But that isn't the case this time. We're actually seeing projects that have cycles within the cycle, the narrative moves and then it cools off. And so they're actually holding on to one particular token over the course of a 2 to 3 year period is not the most effective way to dominate this market. Having the courage to move in and out of things is the right way to play it. And so, 2023, CAS. 2024, BitTensor. 2025, BitTensor's not doing so well right now. Matter of fact, XRP, that's probably who should have been the play. Meme coins, if you've got the courage to do it or the research to do it. Most other ones are doing far better. And if we have a look at year to date, Fartcoin in the top 100 year to date. Remember, that's beginning of this year. So we're only talking about 20 odd days, nearly 100%. SPX, I mean, that's thankfully one that I'm in quite heavily now, 70% year to date. XRP. So having that ability to or the courage, the skill to move from one to the other is probably the better way to play it. And were we not sitting on a knife edge waiting for Donald to mention the blessed word of Bitcoin, then maybe that's the time to do it. But for me, I feel like if I were to go to cash now, waiting to try and find the next, and the second I do that sell, he's going to mention Bitcoin. I'm going to be caught holding a bag. So I'm just going to sit and wait on that one. But that's definitely, it's crossing my mind, and you're going to see how my portfolio has sort of been changing over the last couple of weeks. And BitTensor is just getting smaller. One, because it's not doing as well, and the others are. But two, I'm just reallocating funds across it. And I may perhaps touched on this one, but just to re-emphasize it, the one thing that the Trump meme coin has done is it really has said, if you didn't believe in Murad's statement back in last year, if you didn't believe in just how well DexScreener and Solana and everything else has done, now, Trump, it has said, look, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, meme coins cannot be ignored. They are a way to make money, but you go into them with a different mindset. I ain't looking for the top. I'm just looking to make money and then move back into something else. And there is serious money to be made. Those people, even when I woke up on Saturday morning and Trump coin was at $15, had I have gone into it, there was an easy 5x there. I didn't do it. Matter of fact, I didn't even place my first long until we were about $62. So yeah, there's opportunities to be had if you have the courage and the time to do it. The only issue I have with meme coins, for those of you that check Discord regularly, that meme coin channel is wild in there. I mean, the amount of alpha that's getting put out is fantastic, but it's hard to keep up with. So I think you've really got to be dedicated, because it's not something you can sit on. If it doesn't meet the criteria, it starts to fall away, just move out, move on to something else. But Trump has definitely, or the Trump coin, I'm not talking about Donald here, the Trump coin has definitely suggested that there is a future to be had there. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about. So Coinbase have listed it. Matter of fact, let's just have a look at where this thing is listed now. Binance, Bybit, Coinbase, OKX, BitGet, Kraken, KuCoin, Mexi, HTX. In 48 hours, this thing has managed to get on every single tier 1 exchange. We can't even get BitTensor on Coinbase, but this thing had. So it just shows the power of where it is. Interesting. There's definitely, look, we've got 43.38. Most of these other ones are recording in the 44s. So I don't know if there's a liquidity issue on some of these, but anyway, it is where it is. I suppose because it's just been traded on so many more dexes that we're getting a bit of a more dominant price fluctuation. And then the other story from this, I don't know where it is. That's a shame. Sorry, I'm trying to find it. Can't find it. Can't be bothered to search for it. Basically, I was just gonna, come on, I'll try and find it. Whilst I'm finding it, talk about it. What's even wilder is in the last, I think it's 48 hours, 33 new ETF applications have been made. And one of them is Trump coin. I mean, it's just ludicrous that is the thing. Here we go. I think this is it. So US asset managers file ETF applications for Trump and Doge and another 31 others out there. But that's the point, isn't it? Is that there's people here, and whether or not this one gets knocked back and it's just a hype to try and keep it. But Trump has already managed to convince enough people that actually there is institutional demand for this and we need an ETF. And so Doge, Bonk, Trump, all have been launched. I had a picture of all 33. I can't remember what I was trying to find it. The point just trying to make there. So yeah, interesting times. Crypto wonder, wait, there's a meme channel. You're the person who speaks in it the most. Maybe not the most, but certainly one of them. Right. Any other news before we get on to price action? I don't think so. I think we kind of covered it. Just to quickly summarize again, we haven't heard from Donald Trump as an official president in terms of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency yet. When that happens, I do believe we're going to get one hell of a green candle. But like with all crypto, we'll get into charting in a moment, what goes up normally comes straight back down. So, we may be able to take advantage of the volatility that comes from that. But let's have a look. So here's the standard chart, as everyone has seen. And 12 hours that it is, that movement that we saw yesterday up to, as I said, 109,500. I think it was a little bit higher But it took out this liquidity box that was, the last of the shorts at sort of like 108 to 109, wicked into that, took it out, fell away. And we've been sort of balancing. Now, interestingly enough, you go on Coinac, there's nothing really above it because it happened, so recently, 24 hours ago. Nothing's had time to build in terms of where people are placing their shorts right now. So, no, Alan, there is a dedicated meme channel. I'm sure you know that. Sorry, I thought you were taking the mic. I'll tag you in it after the call. So nothing really to the north right now. But what can we see on here? Now, bear in mind, these white lines here, as you can see, for those that aren't aware, they're Fibonacci extension lines. Now, I drew these fib levels. Well, I take it from the March all-time high, so 74,000, and I haven't altered it. And just look how well it's playing out now. 2 on the fib level. Normally we just go from 0 to 1, but this is an extension beyond the 2. That was at 109,800. Now, forgive me for the $100 that it didn't hit. That's a pretty good explanation of it bouncing off there and coming back down. But we're also getting fairly close to this trend line. Now, as I've mentioned, and I'll mention again, Donald Trump says Bitcoin, we're going to bust through that trend line. But if we don't, I can see us now with nothing really above. We've got free space. We don't have any short, like a serious amount of short liquidity building up. I can see us, just naturally drifting up, passing that 110, maybe even getting as high as 112,000. But we know from past experience that this is the, oops, said he doesn't move and touch it. This is the trend line. This is the trend line. So when we hit it, I expect some reaction. There are times where it just goes straight through, I accept, although it hit there and then came back. I expect us to have some sort of reaction from that. So assuming we don't get Donald, and I feel like we're on first name terms, Donald and I. Donald mentioned it. A move up to here, I feel like we'll probably have some sort of pullback. How far it goes, maybe back into this block here, and then a re-attack of that. As I said, he starts talking about Bitcoin strategic reserve. I don't see why we don't get a 10% candle. I don't see why we don't end up 116, 120. And just flying up through there, just because of the relief that comes from it. But that kind of level of volume is going to create a vector candle. That's going to lead to some pullback over the time. So that's really where we're looking right now. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are trading within this sort of range. And we're at the top part of that range. So don't be alarmed. Don't be worried if we start to move back. Matter of fact, over the past 24, 48 hours, we've gone back to the 100,000 level 4 times. So we've already seen that volatility, those sort of 8 to 10%, so 5 to 8% moves, which are there. Maybe we lose it. Maybe we re-attack this level here. But really, the Gandalf line now, as it's been proven on the daily, is at 92,000 level. On the 12-hour, it's down at 91,000. But that's the Gandalf line. We lose that, we're going to have another conversation. But let's have another talk about all-time highs, because I don't want to be negative. I don't think the bull run is over. I do worry, as I mentioned, that hysteria and the hype around meme coins may be escalating when we get to that peak blow off top, and maybe it's a blow off top like it was in 2021. Hopefully it's not a blow off top like it is in 2017, because I feel like that's just too early. But what we are now at all-time highs. We've been interacting in and around all-time highs for the last month and a half, let's say. And something is different this cycle to previous cycles. I just want to point out to say, what? We've got some time on our hands, I personally believe. Previously, let's go back to 2021. We hit all-time high in November 2021. What did we do? We immediately melted away. Okay? We hit it. We didn't linger. We didn't try and build support. We lost support and off we went. Back in April before that, 64,000 was the all-time high. We hit the all-time high. We immediately fell away. On the way up, when we were hitting all-time highs, we immediately pulled back. Obviously, this 14,000 in 2019 wasn't an all-time high, so that one doesn't count. So we go back to 2017 bull market. We hit $20,000 and we immediately fall away. On all of the ways up, whenever we hit an all-time high, always pulled back immediately before we found our footing again. You go back to 2014 all-time high, at what was this, $1,000, immediately fell away. And again, beginning of 2013, when we got to $250, immediately fell away. Okay, so previous cycles, we've always hit all-time highs. We've always pulled back aggressively. This time, we hit an all-time high of 74,000 back in March, and we consolidated. Granted, I know some people are going to say, no, Harry, falling to 50,000 is a fall away. But it didn't happen immediately. You know, we messed around in and around this area for 8 months. I was going to say 9, 8 months. We messed around in and around the all-time high level. Okay, yeah, we did fall to 50,000 a couple of times. We kept on going back up to 69,000, back down to 50,000, 68,000. We were ranging. This time, similar things happened in shorter time frame. We hit an all-time high. You know, all of these all-time highs up here, we didn't fall away. We ranged. Matter of fact, we kept on making new ones. And this is it. We are at the moment building another sturdy platform. That bull flag that I drew out earlier on, the difference is that Bitcoin is hanging around because it doesn't actually feel like we're at the blow off top. And I didn't feel like we were there. You know, the likes of launching meme coins and shilling them as a president of the United States, creating that hysteria aside, it feels like we're just building some structure. Now, we're on the weekly chart here, and you know, people could be saying, well, Harry, what about if we've got, I'll have to zoom in so I can draw it, some sort of double top pattern? Look, it could well turn into a topping pattern, but right now it isn't. The weekly chart is just showing bunching. You've already seen what it looked like on the daily chart with this sort of bullish rectangle that is forming out there. And that's how I see it. So we haven't fallen away. We've managed to maintain this level. And this is the second time this cycle that Bitcoin has shown the resilience to hit an all-time high and stay there. ETFs are going to have helped. Of course they are. The markets weren't open yesterday, so we don't know what. We know they didn't buy anything yesterday, and I don't know what the demand has been today because I've not bothered checking into it. But I believe they'll still be buying. I do. You know, as long as BlackRock are buying, we're still happy. So I'm not trying to sit here and say that the bull market is over because Trump launched a coin. I'm worried that it could be, you know, that analogy of sticking a frog in a pot of cold water and slowly heating it up. He's going to stay in there and boil himself to death because he's not realizing that this thing's going to kill him. Those are the kind of things that potentially we will look back on and go, oh yeah, that was the start of the end, wasn't it? And so we just need to bear that in mind. And if this is going to look like 2021 with two tops in the cycle, we've actually only got a couple of months until that kind of April time, you end of Q1. Maybe we start to see that fall away in Q2. So it's actually not that long of a boiling period that we may be setting. So I'm just going to talk about them, maybe bring some awareness to them. I'm not acting on it myself. I don't think it's there, but if we get it out in the open, enough ears listening to it, maybe we can, you know, save ourselves a little bit later on. We'll have a look at it on the lower time frames in a little bit. There's a couple of just questions that came through, both of them about perp trading. So we'll try and cover those as quickly as we can. So Nick's been dabbling in this trade. Good entry in SUI at 3.59 with liquidation of 2.89. It's only $100 margin, isolated 6x long. Okay. Had it going for weeks and haven't closed it as I felt this was a good entry. Should I add margin to this? Will it increase the returns? As it's only 100 gambled anyway, and I'm 120 in profit. But if I had another 500, would that increase my returns, or is leverage the key? So it's price action is going to determine your returns. You know, leverage. So the leverage side of things is going to impact on your liquidation, but I'm assuming you're going to be using a stop loss. Although you don't mention the stop loss. But here's my concern: you've had a $100 trade open for weeks. I don't know how long, but let's just get the SUI chart up. Let's just put it, I mean, if it's weeks, let's just put it on the 12-hour. Let's just say you've had it open since you got in at we can kind of work out 389. So earliest it would have been is the 19th of December. If you got in here, you've had this open a month. Okay. I mean, the fees are just probably killing you. And okay, it's a percentage of whatever you invest. I get it. But ultimately that, you know, in that time, it has gone up to the price level you're at the moment. Once, come back down. Twice, come back down. 3 times, come back down. 4 times, come down. And we're there now 5 times. There was 5 opportunities for 5 different trades there. And that's why I don't personally like leaving trades open. We'll get onto that in a moment. But I'm not a big fan of these long period time frame trades. Why? Because, I mean, your liquidation level is miles away. The liquidation level is down here. Let's just mark it up. Okay. So Sui's going to have to really shit the bed. It's going to have to lose nearly 50% of its current value to get down there. And within doing that, I mean, it's not this is on the 12 hour, so forgive it, but we're losing the 5. So we're losing the 10, the 20, the 50, and the 200 EMAs, all those vector candles. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to get out. If you don't have a stop loss set at least where you entered, you're mad. But, it's only $100 and you may think, it's worth taking the risk for. But where's your end game? If it's only $100 and it's worth taking the risk for, what is it that you're looking to try and get out of it? Are you thinking this thing's going to go to $50 and you're going to ride it all the way up there? Because the fees are just going to kill you. It'd be better, it's the perp play. You're not owning the spot asset. It doesn't necessarily matter where your entry is. You can just play, individual trades to get to it. So you add 500 to the margin, keeping it at 6x. It's ultimately going to just bring up the average of your entry position. So you got in at 359, you're going to put 5 times the value of that in at its current price. It's going to, move that. I mean, I can't do the math off the top of my head, but your entry position is probably going to end up being like 420. Your liquidation price is going to move up because of that, assuming you keep everything the same. And so you're just playing with some extra risk there. And if you're going to keep it open for another few weeks, who knows what may happen. That's how you just got to, work out in your own mind how you want to play the risk. For me personally, I'd be thinking, right, okay, well, this trade has been open long enough. I would have closed it ages ago. I'd be looking now for a good place to exit, and then I would wait. I'd wait for a better level to re-enter, and then from then I would I'd then go in at a higher margin value. Whether or not you want to keep it at 6x, just gonna have to be based on what you see on the chart. So maybe not the best person to ask, but that's just how I personally would do it. I'm never keeping a trade open for too long. And Julia's question is kind of similar. And I don't, forgive me on this one, Julia, if you're here on the call. I'm just sharing my journey trading perps, but I find I do a setup as close to signs as possible. And once it's placed, when I try to alter the liquidation level using margin option, it either won't let me reduce it, or if I'm adding, it moves a lot with not much added. I'm just trading 250 per trade at the moment. So I don't know what platform you're using this on. So this is where I've been taking it in this way. I don't know if it's a UI issue and it's not clear as to how you should be doing it. I don't know if it's a user issue, as in you're not actually doing what you think you're doing. But I think I kind of answered where it is. If you're bringing in extra margin, depends on what price you're getting it in at. Because if you get in at a higher price, it's going to impact where your overall entry level is. If, however, though you're sort of just increasing the margin when the price is either the same as the original entry level or lower, then you are going to be able to build that in. I think I probably need to see, what you're using and how you're doing it, because your issue seems to be that it won't let you reduce it. And I'm not sure which platform it is that's doing that. So perhaps you just want to message me afterwards and we can have a bit of a conversation about that. So you're not the only two people that have been asking me about trading. I've been having some private messages about it. So how have I been trading Trump, for example? And this is not the best way, I accept. But I don't want to be in a trade any longer than I'm not watching the screen, because crypto is so volatile, and it is. And going back to Nick's point there, I learned the lesson the hard way in 2022, trading on the way down, of going to bed at night and then the market just doing something completely different. And, all my gains gone, or worse still, my stop loss being hit. And I just swore I'd never do that again. So if I'm trading, which I don't trade very often, and most of I don't trade that much, I'm trading when I'm at the chart, when I'm actually at the monitors, I can watch it. So yeah, call me an idiot, but I'm trading maximum on the 1 hour. I'm looking for entries on the 15 minute, looking for entries on the 5 minute. I'm watching on the 1 minute. I'm wanting to see how this asset breathes, what it's doing, how it's moving, how it's interacting with those stuff. And then I can get a feel for what it is. So I trade completely different. I may only have a trade open for a couple of hours, maybe even an hour, maybe less. And if I'm going away from the chart, I'm more than happy to close the trade because I'm not in control of it anymore. And like I say, things can happen. I'm typically only longing because I'm awaiting some big news announcement from Donald that's just going to move the market. But yeah, there's opportunities to be had there. And so for me, I've done a couple of trades on Trump. I've had a couple of bad trades on virtual, trying to take advantage of that, which just hasn't worked out. But SPX, that meme coin, SPX 6900, has been the one that's sort of like been a good one for me. But I am trading it on the much lower time frames, which I don't often talk about because it's contrary to what you're told else to do within the group. So, we'll just leave it at that. But it works for me because I know I'm entering into a trade over a short time frame. I have a stop loss. I move that stop loss. I'm happy to take profit, even when I still think the trade can go north. I do all those sort of things. It worked well for me in 2021 and back end of 2022 when I gave up trying to trade the 4-hour charts and beyond. And I just think the market's too volatile. That's my personal opinion. I don't like it. I'd rather play, instead of fast and loose, slow and tight, whatever the opposite of that's supposed to be. Okay, let's have a look at some others. Let's not look at Bitcoin on the 5-minute chart. Although, I'll wait for the 50, we've had that move up. We've lost it. 50 hopefully is going to catch us now for a steady move back up. And I just want to reiterate, TA could be out the window. Bitcoin's mentioned. This thing is moving north. But go on the 4-hour chart here. And is this what I drew last time? What was this here? So we're talking about a double bottom, essentially rising through this, which it broke through, where it hit, came back down, retested it, and it's found that as support, and it's come back up. And look, on the 4-hour, it's used the 50 quite nicely. Now we're above these. My view would be we've probably still got a little bit of room to climb, maybe take a new all-time high, but I'd be looking for price to, come back down to the 10 and 20 lines as they're moving up. So sort of that 104,000, maybe as low as 102. Although I think it's already retested the 50. We should, if we continue to go up. I think we've got a bit of time before we need to retest the 50, but I could see some sort of level of interaction as these lines go up, and then maybe another sharp move away, and then come back down and hit the 50, wherever that may be at that time. That's how I feel that would probably ultimately go. I do want to talk about Tau. I feel like Tau needs to be talked about because it's just not performing well. It really isn't. And I think we just have to accept that that's where it's at. And, last week I talked about, the funds and Grayscale and everything else that we can do. But the reality of it is, last week we were sort of at that sort of 450, 470 kind of level on the 382, and we were worried about getting to the 408. Now we're battling the 408, and that is the battleground. And it's not about we're really doing that well with at the moment. And so, just look at the right-hand side of my screen. Most alts, 4% for Bitcoin, which is a huge amount. NIR's not 2%, not great. Trump and MELANIA, we've talked about those, sort of 20%. .5, CAS at 10, Links at 5, Ondos at 5, Renders at 5, Sols at 5, Sui's at 7, Virtual's not doing great, XRP's at 3. You can see there's some real strong movements, but Tau just, okay, it's at 2%, but it's not done great. And we're still having that bout. And the reality is that, since beginning of December, lower high and lower lows, okay? Then that, they're all getting slowly lower. And what's knocking us down at the moment, the 200, this on the 4-hour, the 200 and the 800 knocking us down. We got back up to 490, 500, beaten back down by those two converging on each other, losing the 382 on the fib again, coming back down. We lost the 0.5 fib level. We retested this bit here. Now, hey, okay, maybe this is a W formation. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But if we get a rejection, maybe we get back up to 440, but we reject at 440, I think I sell. That's kind of where I'm at. I think I sell and try and just take advantage of a sidestep or moving a considerable amount into another asset. And that 618 at 355 has been circled for weeks. That feels like where we're going to end up getting to. This next move down feels like that's probably where it's at. And so whether or not I'm eyeing up an exit, I'm unsure, because one thing that we are expecting to be announced, President Trump will announce a joint venture with OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle called Stargate, with an initial $100 billion investment in US AI infrastructure and plans to go 500 billion in the next 4 years. Talking about a major AI innovation. And this is off the back of his executive order erasing all of the protocols and restrictions in place that Biden's administration put in with AI, which he announced yesterday. So there could well be an AI pump. And maybe that's what this needs to get going. But that's a fundamental issue, a news-based issue from the president again, which could just upset the apple cart here. So I am sort of just holding and waiting to see whether or not these things start to work their ways out. But it's always been a case of I'm looking for a move up, and then if that move up hits somewhere and then fails, that's where I look to try and maybe take some profit and look at other things. So that's absolutely on the cards for me. Ethereum's just been sad. It has. Ethereum for me is the one thing that has broken the altcoin model. Bitcoin first, then Ethereum, then large caps, then memes or whatever. Ethereum just seems to have been diluted. It has done nothing. It's not made a new all-time high. Every other layer one worth its salt has made a new all-time high this cycle. And I'm just double checking my figures here. No, it hasn't. I thought it got to 4,800. This thing hasn't. It's stalling again in and around this range. It took an absolute killing when Trump launched, where we see the likes of Solana. Remember, Solana was $8 at the bottom of the cycle, $250, going from strength to strength. Things have been built off it. It's being used. It's fast. It's quick. Yep, Coinbase had their issues with Solana yesterday, and it got a bit of a doing. But I can personally see Solana doing a 2 or a 3x far faster than I can see Ethereum or Tau doing a 2 or a 3x. That's the reality. Doesn't mean I'm jumping into Solana tomorrow, but that is the reality. It is underperforming, and I just think it served its purpose. 2017, it was the only layer one we could really go to. 2021, I feel that it still dominated the market through its name and DeFi and memes and that kind of cycle. Layer 2's been built off the back of it. But I think now that we've got into that third cycle, I think other layer ones have really shown an ecosystem which is thriving on much lower fees, which has been taken advantage of. So, yeah, I know there's a bit of fundamentals there, but right now, from a TA point of view, contradicting everything that I've actually just gone and said on the daily here, we've had some form of M formation and move down, consolidation, move down. Now, there's an argument to be said that this is a W formation, which would be done after only 2 moves down, but it's definitely an argument to be made there. And now what I'd also say is price is being squeezed, and it really is. You've got the 200 at the bottom, which is the yellow line. You've got, which is holding as support, and then you've got the 10, the 20, and the 50. But they are converging on each other. They are squeezing. There is going to be a big move relative terms for Ethereum on the cards here. It's probably that if Trump talks about a crypto, isn't it? It kind of has to be. I can't see the market moving and Ethereum falling down. But if Trump goes a week or two without saying it, maybe that move is actually, it comes back down. We look to maybe reclaim. I'd say that this level would be first. That's 2,800. I was just kind of looking at 2,600 with the 800 EMA, but not great. That's the reality. I know some people have been talking about CAS. CAS has been an interesting one, just from price action. So that move up that people were talking about, I mean, look what it hit. Top to bottom, this must have been on the 12 hour or the 4 hour. It was on the 4 hour, I drew this. Last week, top to bottom, consolidating there, and then 618, it's hit it, rejected from it. It's come all the way back down to the 382. And now we're kind of battling with the 0.5. I just need to move this across so people can see it a bit better. But yeah, that's where it's at. What I like about this, though, if I'm taking away the fibs, we've had some sort of bottoming pattern down here, potential double bottom if you put this on the daily, a move up, and then a nice little consolidation here, and then we've started to move up again. And you can see we don't actually have green or blue candles, so it's not excessive amounts of volume. So at the moment, it's just steady trading that's moving that price up. I think we can break that 14 cents level And I think a retest of that 15 cents is probably on the card. And the real battleground then is, can we break free of this and start to challenge that 18 cents? So promising that we've done that. Definitely want to have a look at Solana. So, again, strong move up, and 4-hour chart here. Strong move up. What we're going to do after a strong move up, we've moved away from the 50 EMAs. I talk about EMAs all the time. EMAs and fibs, that's it. Because time after time, that's what they work. We've had a good move down here. It's bounced off that 50 nicely, and we're starting that move up. And so I think there's a real opportunity for another attack of an all-time high, at $300 level. I think that's where it's going to be. And again, we start mentioning cryptocurrency, Solana's going to move because memes are going to move. So it's there. Virtual is one that we're all relatively new to at the moment. Just I got in the wrong time. That's the reality of where it is. I think my average buy at the moment is about 310, which you look at it, average buy of 310. What have I got to beat to get through that? Well, we've beaten the 10, but the 20, the 50, and the 200 EMA on the 4-hour to get through there. Again, I wouldn't say there's a W formation anywhere, but certainly fallen away, bounced back up, but just ran out of steam and it's come away. We have found a base in and around that level that we saw on the 13th of January, but we really need to see some movement there. Now, fundamentally, there was an issue last week on Virtual Protocol in which the minting of tokens could be duplicated, and effectively there were false tokens being put on there. I don't know if that's been resolved. I've not seen anything on their Twitter that suggested that has been resolved. It was just being investigated. So the potential that is what is causing this sell-off initially. I thought Virtuals, was a good play to have. It's not turned out to be that way. Win some, you lose some. And so that's one that if I do decide there's some chopping block, this is one that is going to come off the chopping block for sure. I think we have to talk about XRP. We don't normally talk about it, but it's proven itself. We can give the XRP army all its stick or whatever you want for it being a stable coin for years, but it's still performing well, and we can't deny that. So that strong move up that we saw in December, which kind of caught everybody surprised. Everyone thought, right, well, that's the top. It's then found a beautiful look at it. I mean, look at it, holding the 50 and the 200 whilst it just sort of stabilized out. We've moved up again. Guess what's happened? Got away from the 50. It's corrected off that now. Bottoming kind of pattern here on the 4-hour. And so move up. And you have a look at, I can't remember what it is. WLFI, whatever the Trump kind of fund is. What did they buy? They bought Ripple. There's, talks of Bank of America connecting wallets with Ripple and a link to that WLFI, etc. So, there's fundamental news as well as TA news that can help to drive this thing forward. So, as a legacy token, it's doing well. Move to SPX. I think most of you that are in memes have at least some exposure to this. And again, let's put it on the daily, but this has just performed again really well. Particularly since that move up in October, which is actually pre-Trump. This was Murad in September, which is sort of when we got on board, or I got on board. Strong move up, and then kind of mulled around that 50 to 70 cents level for a while, and then we've had that strong move up. Now, on the daily, what I would say is actually potential there. So what I need to see really, and also look where that is on the 50 EMA. So there's potential. We may see a retrace down to $1. If we do, I think that's going to be a great entry. But what we've seen even today with it pulling back, just coming back and testing 20 EMA, just finding some support from that and a strong bounce from it. And we're almost at all-time highs on daily closes. So again, depending on what Donald says, I think we've got some way to move there. We talked about dominance. We talked about Total 3, NVIDIA and MicroStrategy. It's fine. We were going to talk about Tau BTC. So yeah, going back to Tau and what it's done. Sorry, let me just have a drink. I'll come to some of the comments in the chat in a moment. Sorry, I've been ignoring those. I mean, this is the issue. You know, since October, all Tau has done is just bleed value for BTC, and Tau's not alone. Don't get me wrong, but Tau's performance in the last 90 days over the rest of the top 100 is not showing a good picture. And this is where, you know, is this a good entry? And I mentioned this in Discord. Someone put in a chart that kind of looked a little bit like this, that kind of said, you know, when we get into this zone, we do see a bounce from it. And I, you know, if I didn't know this was Tau BTC, I'd be like, yeah, there's definitely potential there. What we'd want to see is some sort of like bottoming pattern and then a move up maybe outside of this before, you know, like we're breaking it. But yeah, it just doesn't look like it's going to turn around anytime soon. And that's reflective, as I said, on Bitcoin dominance, because, you know, this one does look like it's starting to climb back through. And so those days of, you know, 30% BTC and below, you know, well, people talking about that are probably long gone. It's going to have just such a strong, it may fall down to 50% or so, which will still be a great amount of money that can move into the altcoin market. But I think, you know, it losing half its value, you know, from, well, not value, yeah, almost value, I suppose, half of its percentage from 60 down to 30. I don't see it in the time frame that we've got, particularly with strategic Bitcoin reserves and other countries buying it and ETFs and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, if a lot of these other ETFs, I mean, no, I was going to say there's 33 ETFs out there. Maybe if some of those get approved, we might see a shift, but no one was really interested in the Ethereum ETF. Maybe a Solana one might do well. But yeah, so I just don't think Tau BTC is really showing that Tau is ready to turn around. And I hope I jinx it by saying that now and it does turn around, because I'm still in it. But, you know, look, near BTC, the same picture. Gas BTC, same picture, getting crushed. Ethereum BTC, same, I'm getting crushed. So the only four I have on my chart, but you can get the point from that there. So that's kind of where we sit. I've wasted an hour and 15 minutes of your time. Let me just go through, make sure I didn't miss any questions. Thank you for everyone that did go in the poll. Looks like about 84% of you believe that Donald Trump is a superhero. He is a force for good, and he is going to, if he sticks to everything he says, I agree. I do think his meme coin was shady as hell. And, you know, maybe it's that yin and yang principle. Everyone has a bit of good and a bit of bad in them. And maybe he just saw he's a businessman, saw an opportunity to make some money and realized it wasn't illegal and went for it. But still not great. So let's just scroll back up and just make sure I haven't missed everything. We talked about that. Tau just isn't marketable to Uber drivers the same way XRP and Trump is. Yeah, so we talked about it last week. Tau's a very complicated thing. DTAU as well is going to just add to that. But there's plenty of complicated projects that do well, but there's also a lot of uncomplicated projects that do even better. Getting to the March 2024 highs for Tau is a big battle. Yeah, that was a listen on Binance that kind of threw that one on the way up there. But yeah, $700 plus. Yeah, it's a 2x from here, really. Well, just under. EVE's underperformance is almost the only thing that keeps me sane with Tau. Yeah. Hey there, Tom. EVE's tokenomics feel too inflationary now. Yeah, but it's deflationary now, isn't it? I haven't checked to see, you know, burn rates and all that kind of stuff, but I think generally it's considered that. Ethereum is the vegan knitting club of crypto. Yeah, it's not as well liked as it used to be, that's for sure. I've sold so many underperformance and just unloaded full clips into SPX. SPX was showing strength, and, you know, I appreciate there are memes out there that outperform SPX on a daily basis, but it has shown strength. And yeah, so that to me, I mean, you'll see my portfolio in a second. That started off at like less than 1% of my portfolio. Where it stands now is just unbelievable. Looks like a dead cat bounce, and the token inflation will add to the pressure. I can really see Tau crap in the bed if BTC corrects. Yeah, so all of it, if BTC starts falling below 100,000, I think everything does. I mean, not everything, but vast majority. And that's always been the case, unfortunately. So something to definitely think about. Tom ditched Tau. I felt like we're moving a tick. I haven't moved a tick for years. I don't play in enough woods, obviously. His meme coins were pure grift, and nobody who top blasted in early on was 10% was upset about it. Yeah, and we talked about Trump and his grift-like nature a bit earlier. So I agree with that. quickly having a look at the portfolio. So the personal pot kind of sits like this. So near still the biggest, Tau at 30%, so it's coming down. Like I say, underperforming and also selling some off. It used to be like 50 odd percent. It's not quite there now. SPX, as I said, it was less than 1% when I first got it. It's at 12.5% now. It's done very well. I have added to it, so don't get me wrong. Render, Virtual, Giga. Giga's another good one. Render's kind of just sat there. I feel like I probably, of all the ones to get rid of, I don't really care about, is probably Render. It's done well for me, but maybe I can move something else. And that USD teapot, I do tell people I'm 100% back in the market because that's just what I'm using for perp trades. So it's there. BTC, still 100% from the business point of view. So that's where it sits. Tom's over Render. Dude, yeah. I always like, I've said this to the group before. My worry is I do a link and I sell a link because I'm just bored of it and then it goes away and flies off to the moon. Part of me thinks just add more liquidity and just keep these now because it's small enough to do that. But anyway, that's where we are with that. Appreciate it. This, we're 36 hours into Trump's presidency. We're all waiting for him to deliver on one of his promises that's just going to be able to move the market for us. And I think that's going to be the case. And I know you guys will be, guys and girls, will be looking into it. We'll know it happens because we'll see the price move, but I'll certainly be keeping as many of my waking moments on Twitter and everything else to just try and see if we get any sniff of that happening. In terms of Trading Pub on Thursday, I'm assuming there is one. I know they're skiing at the moment in France. Seem to have the time of their lives, actually. So we'll just have to wait and see. If it is on, I presume it'll still be at 1 o'clock UK time. But we'll go from there. Between now and then, or between now and the next Avenger call next week, if you've got any questions, as always, please feel free to sort of hit me up, whether it be tagging me or dropping me a DM. Happily try and assist as and where we can. Julie, if you actually get this, please just reach out and I'll try and help you out directly with your question there. All I can say other than that is, come on, Trump, let's talk about strategic Bitcoin reserve. That would be fantastic. But if not that, enjoy the rest of your evening, enjoy the rest of your week. Let's turn these portfolios into super green. And yeah, next week hopefully be even better. Thanks everyone. I'll speak to you all soon and have a good evening. Cheers now.